I'm Bob Proctor. I am the chairman of the Life Success Group of companies. We have a group of companies in the personal development, human potential field. I've been in the business now for 39 years. I've been studying in the field since 1961. Just studying human potential and how to really bring the most of ourselves to the surface. Well, you know, everything's energy. Energy is. It is neither created nor destroyed. It's the cause and effect of itself. It's 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. There's nowhere where energy is not. Everything's energy. Your entire body is energy. Everything you deal with is energy. Everything is just at a different state of vibration. The only difference in one thing and another is in density or amplitude of vibration. So when we say about energy, we're not talking about, gas in a car or the electric in a house. We're talking about everything. And then it's understanding it from a personal perspective that I think is vital to a person's health and well-being, and for an individual to live a really meaningful life. And unfortunately, not too many people study it. And I've got to compliment you for making this film, because I think this information is vital if a person really wants to live a full life. Well, oddly enough, my first contact with it was in Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. That was the first book I ever read. I had never read a book, and I was 26, but I didn't understand what I was reading. So it was quite a number of years later, I met a gentleman, Leland Val Vandewaal, who's gone now. He introduced me to another man, Dr. C. Harry Roeder, who is retired now, but he probably knew more about the mind and energy than anyone I have ever met. The man was a genius, absolutely brilliant. And he's the one that really got me interested. When I heard Val got me interested because he and I became friends, and he was a coach of mine. And then when I started to study with Dr. Roeder, he took everything down to the electron state. I was fascinated with it. And of course, I've never stopped studying it. I never will stop studying. You see, I think religion and science used to be antagonistic, or they were perceived that way. Now they're joined together. Like one's studying the cause, the other's studying the effect. And but religion teaches exactly the same thing. If you ask the theologian, not necessarily the minister or the rabbi at the corner, but the theologian, what God is, they'll tell you God is. He is neither created nor destroyed, is the cause and effect of himself, is 100% evenly present in all places at the same time. You ask, and is all-knowing. If you ask the electrician or the engineer or the scientist, what's energy? The energy is neither created nor destroyed, is the cause and effect of it. They're saying essentially the same thing. So it's something I started to study back in the 60s, and the more I study it, the more fascinated I become with it. And I'm convinced anything that people don't understand, they have a tendency to criticize or ridicule. Like there's a lot of criticism of The Secret, but only by the people that don't understand what you're talking about here. So you will probably run into critics in this too, but at least you're provoking them to think. And I believe if people start to think, they're going to move in the right direction. They will get it. Well, I think I would do for them what a man did for me. Ray Stanford sat down with me, and he put an R on a sheet of paper. Now he said, Bob, let that represent the results that you're getting in your life. And then he put two H's and a W. Now he says that's happiness, health, and wealth. Then he asked me if I thought he was a happy guy. And I said, yeah, he seemed pretty happy to me. He said, have you ever seen me sick? And I had to admit I hadn't. He said, have you ever seen me when I was broke? Again, I had to admit I hadn't. Well, he said, you've got to be one of the most miserable people I've ever met. And I was an unhappy human being. And he said, you're always sick. Now, he said, you don't have a terminal illness or anything, but you've always got a headache or a cold. And he said, you're always broke. Now, he was actually being kind. I was earning $4,000 a year, and I owed $6,000. I didn't even have any hope of it ever turning around. I mean, I would have had to pay everything I earned for 18 months to break even, and I would have had nothing to live on. So you see, it was a hopeless situation. Now, when a person has no hope, they have no options. They're stuck. And he said, why don't you try my way? Your way's not working. Well, I started to tell him why I couldn't. Oh, he said, wait a minute. That's why you can't. Why don't you focus on how you can? And you see, what he was doing was baiting me, and he was pulling me in, but he was getting me. And he said, would you like to get the results I'm getting? And I'm, well, yeah. But see, I thought he had some talent and ability that I didn't have. He said, I haven't got anything going for me that you don't have except an attitude. He said, you got a rotten attitude. He said, I've got a good attitude. I expect good things. He said, you're expecting bad things. Why don't you try what I'm doing for a little while? And I'm not quite sure why I did, but I bought into that and I said, I will. And just like that, things started to change. And of course, one thing led to another. Now, my income went to $175,000, then it went over $1 million. The results were so shocking that I couldn't just accept what was happening. I had to know, why did it happen? See, I thought it was because I was listening to Earl Nightingale's recording of The Strangest Secret and then his condensed narration of Think and Grow Rich and reading the book. But I gave the book and the records to people and nothing happened to them. So I knew there was something that I didn't understand. And I was changing my energy. You're talking about changing energy. I was changing my energy. I was attracting different people into my life. I was thinking different, so I was putting myself into a different vibration. Do you see, the one point that all great leaders have agreed on is that we become what we think about. Now, they've disagreed on virtually anything else. Well, thought is energy. Thought waves are cosmic waves that penetrate all time and space. There is no energy that's more potent than thought. And you and I have been given the ability to think, the highest function that we're capable of. Now, when we say thoughts are omnipresent, I used to have a difficult time trying to get that message across when I was teaching. But today it's easy. I say email's automatic, is omnipresent. When I hit that mouse, boom, the email's everywhere evenly present. If you're in Rio de Janeiro, you'll get it. If you're in Alaska, you'll get it. If you're in New York, you'll get it. The email's omnipresent. Well, so is a thought. And you see, with our little way of looking at things, we have a hard time grasping that we would have the ability to transmit something so powerful, but we do. And we've got a marvelous mind, and we've got a brain, and the brain is an electronic switching station. And just through entertaining new thoughts, we can alter the vibration we're in, and we can change our whole world. See, the brain does not think, but we think with the brain. Now, that's a bit of a riddle for some people. It's reported we've got Albert Einstein's brain being preserved in a jar somewhere in New Jersey, I've heard. But it's not doing anybody any good because Albert's not with it. See, the brain by itself isn't going to function. You've got to be there. And you are a soul. You don't have one, you are one. And you can activate cells in your brain, and every cell has a positive and a negative pole. So you can activate either the positive or the negative pole. And whatever you activate is going to transmit through you, like you're an electrical system. The electrical system in a person's body would make the electrical system in a supercomputer look like an absolute toy. And most people have no knowledge of it. They're marveled at the electrical system in the house. They come in and snap their fingers or clap their hands and they can turn on the light. Wow! Well, you can do that with yourself. We have a hard time grasping, how does this work? I throw one switch, all the lights go on. It's because they're all hooked together. Well, the brain cells are all wired together. And we can alter the vibration we're in by activating different cells in the brain. We're just beginning to take a look at who we are. You know, inscribed over the Ark of Apollo at Delphi the past 2,000 years, it says, know thyself. Most people haven't got the foggiest idea who they are. They think they're their name. You know, like I used to think I was Bob. Well, I'm not Bob at all. Bob's my name, but it's not me, and I can change it to Nick if I wanted, or George, but I'll go with Bob, and it's my name. Like, we think you're your hand, you're your body. I'm not my body. Like, you don't hear anybody say, am hand. I have a hand. So I think we've got to take a look at who we are and what we've got and how we function, and then begin to apply this information in a practical manner to improve the quality of our life. Because life is meant to be enjoyed. And I think our lifestyle is vital. I think our health is everything. Like I often mention, I was 73 the other day, and I've got more energy than most people, 23. How come? It's because I know I have. You see, we don't get energy, we release energy. And when we start to understand some of these things, desire is the triggering mechanism that'll get the energy flowing. I often say, take a guy that comes home from work And he sits down, he says, oh, I'm tired. And his wife comes along and says, there's a new plaza open. Let's go and wander around it for 4 hours. Oh, forget it, I'm tired. I've had a rough day. Now, another time he comes home, he's had a worse day. He's had, in fact, a number of bad days and been up late for a number of nights. But there's a dance that he's been planning on. He can kick up his heels all night. Why? Desire to go to the dance. Well, when we have a desire to really live, make something happen, we'll have the energy to do it. Because all the energy is omnipresent. That's everywhere. That's within me. I don't get it. I release it. When we're talking about energy, let's go right to where it all starts. The highest function that you and I are capable of is thought. All great leaders, philosophers, religious leaders, everybody, as far back in history as you can go, have been in complete unanimous agreement on one point. They've disagreed on virtually everything else, but there's one point they're in complete agreement on, that we become what we think about. Thinking is the highest function that we're capable of. Now, thought is energy. Thought waves are cosmic waves that penetrate all time and space. The only thing that stops a thought is that which resonates with that thought. And for years I was trying to explain that seminar, and I was having difficulty with it. I understood it, but I was having difficulty getting it across. And I once heard a great doctor say, you don't understand anything until you can explain it to someone else so that they understand it. Well, then one day something hit me, and I thought, yes. When we send emails, I can send you an email. I just click a mouse and doesn't matter where you are, you're going to get the email if you turn on your computer. The only thing that stops the email is that which resonates with the email, your email address. So you could be in Rio, or you could be in Alaska, or New York, or Kuala Lumpur. You're going to get that email if you turn on your computer, you're online, and you've got that email address in your computer, you'll get it. Well, if you've got the address in your brain, and I send out the vibration, if I'm thinking of you, and I would like you to phone me, or I want to get a hold of you. You could be wandering down Oxford Street in London, England. I could be in Fifth Avenue in New York, and I could be thinking, gosh, I wished I could get a hold of Nick, and I just can't reach him. I was just talking to him this morning, you know, the odds of him phoning me are so slim. But I'm focusing on that. I'm sending out a strong charge of energy. Now, if you're not thinking, that vibration will activate cells in your brain about me, and that'll bring a picture in your mind. And if you act on it, we're going to be in touch. And because you get such a strong vibration, you'll probably act on it. The only thing that stops a thought is that which resonates with that thought. If I sit in a restaurant and you're eating, generally when people are eating, they're not thinking. And when they're not thinking, they're in a totally deductive state. In other words, their mind is wide open, their brain is wide open to suggestion. I can focus on you turning around. I can see you turning around. And I'll watch you, and it's just like a beam of light going right into your brain. You'll start to get restless, and pretty soon you'll turn around and look at me. I've transmitted an image right into your brain. Now, I'm not recommending people do that because you're invading somebody else's privacy, and that's not particularly a nice thing to do. In fact, I don't agree with it at all, so I probably shouldn't even told you that. But we see what we're doing is we're transmitting thoughts. Well, we're transmitting thoughts through vibration to a baby. When the baby's born, the baby's subconscious mind is wide open. Whatever images are going on in our mind, we're transmitting those thoughts through the medium of the molecule right into the baby's brain, and we're populating the cells in the baby's brain. Like if I asked you to think of your home like that, a picture of your home flashes on the screen of your mind. Now if I'm going to ask you to think of your car, a picture of your car flashes on the screen of your mind. Think of your front door, and a picture of your front door, your refrigerator. And you see, all these different pictures are coming up. I'm activating vocal cords. I'm setting up a vibration. It's a light message, actually. That's what thought is. And your hearing sense is picking it up. It's rifle firing down a nerve passageway in your brain. It'll strike those cells in your brain, which are already vibrating. They increase in amplitude of vibration, and the picture that's in them flashes on the screen of the mind. Now, it's similar to when you walk into a house. We've got electrical switches now that are activated by clapping your hands, or you can flip a switch. And when we do that, all the lights go on. And we're not really surprised. Maybe when we clap our hands, that's starting to get us because it's rather a new idea. But we don't think anything of that. We expect that to happen. There's an electrical system in the house. That's the way the house is wired. We're saying, I would like when you throw this switch to have all the lights in the downstairs go on by the front door. It makes me feel safer when I come in the house. And we know that the electrician will do that for us. Why? Because they understand how to hook the wires up. But when we take and we tap a person's brain through touch, through sound, through gesture, whatever way, and it activates all these cells in the brain, we don't understand that. So we don't think anything of it. It's an electrical system in the body that's more intricate than anything in a house. The electrical system in the body would make the electrical system in a supercomputer look like an absolute toy. And we really don't understand much about it. When there's pain in the body, that's a signal that something is not in harmony with the laws of the universe, with God's laws. I see the laws, God's modus operandi. And when there's discomfort in the body, we're violating the law. It's telling us we're doing something wrong. I don't care whether it's thought or movement or what it is. And we've got to shift the energy. And as we shift the energy, the pain will leave. See, I think we have to start understanding the electrical system in the body. We have to start understanding energy for what it is. Energy is flowing to and through us. I call it spirit. Pure, unadulterated spirit is flowing into our consciousness. And we can make anything out of it we want because we have creative faculties. And as we start utilizing our creative faculties for the good in our life, we start really moving. Do you know, Napoleon Hill said that an educated person is not necessarily a person with an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. He said an educated person is a person who has so developed the faculties of their mind that they can acquire anything they want or its equivalent without violating the rights of others. You know, some people will say they have a photographic memory. There's no such thing. Everyone has a perfect memory. Some people have developed it and some haven't. See, memory, perception, intuition, the will, reason, imagination, these are all mental faculties. And we can develop them. And they're used to operate with the inside, where the power lies within us. Our sensory factors are helping us communicate and correspond with our outside world. And we've been programmed to live from the outside in. Now we've got to change that paradigm if we're really going to enjoy life into abundance like we're meant to. I think it was Steve Bowe said, God's gift to us is more talent and ability than we'll ever hope to use in our lifetime. Our gift to God is to develop as much of that talent and ability as we can in this lifetime. Well, if we're going to do that, we're going to have to understand our higher faculties. And we're going to have to work from the inside out. And then we just look at the outside to check and see how well we're doing. It's like going to a thermometer to see, you know, where the thermostat's set. If the house isn't the temperature we want, we go and we adjust the thermostat. Well, the thermostat's inside, and we use our higher faculties to do this. Do you know, we've got mental faculties. I can walk by a person on the street and I can tell you whether they operate from the right or left hemisphere of their brain. Like you operate from both right and left. You're a little more right than left. But I can just walk by you and I know that. I was introduced to David here just a few minutes ago. David's dominantly a left brain person. He's got right brain though. He's got a shy side to him that he keeps well hidden. So he would hold things inside that he just wouldn't tell people about. Now I could walk by him and pick that energy up just like that. With a mental faculty we call intuition. Someone said prayer is when we talk to God. Intuition is when God talks to us. God's telling us what our environment's like. We've got to tune in and get the message. But most people don't know how to use that faculty. I use it. I don't even use it to invade people's privacy, but I use it to understand what the person's like that I'm communicating with, so I can communicate more effectively. We've got to get to know the other person. And the only way we're going to get to know the other person is to ourselves. Like I think I mentioned where it says at the Ark of Apollo, know thyself. That message has been there for 2,000 years. Most people know more about the operation of their television set than they do about themselves. The average person knows little, if anything, about, they think they're their name or their body. They really know very little about themselves. And then they're wondering, how did they improve their results? As Ray told me, he said, they're your results. If you want to improve your results, you've got to improve you. And he asked me one time, he said, do you ever read? And I said, no, I can't read. Now that wasn't true. I could, not well, but I could. I since found out I read about as well as most people. The average person reads at about a grade 7 level. And that's because we learn to read by the time we're in grade 7, and we never improve upon the skill from that point on. Just like you're talking about energy in the body and, and how to tap and how to use the energy, well, we can do that with reading. We can just take that, because words are symbols, and every symbol has a corresponding image. There's pictures on the page, and we just get the pictures. There's photo reading, photo learning. But we know so little, and we're influenced by the critics. I'm not anymore. I used to be, but I'm not anymore. I follow my inner counsel, you see, and it took me a while to learn that, but it pays great dividends, Well, when you talk about negative beliefs, I think before you even get into negative beliefs, I think you deal with beliefs. I quote Napoleon Hill frequently because I'm such a student of his. I've been carrying his book. I have it in my hotel room since 1963, the copy I have, and I've been carrying another one for a couple of years before that. He said, there's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. Now, I don't care if this is health, wealth, relationships, more successful business, whatever it is, there's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one's ready for a thing until they believe that they can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief and not mere hope or wish. Now, he said, open-mindedness is essential to belief. Closed minds will not inspire faith, courage, or belief. And then he says, it takes no more energy to aim high in life, to demand abundance and prosperity, than it does to accept misery and poverty. Like we can accept perfect health, perfect wealth. We can accept these, but we got to believe it. Now, I worked on this belief for a long time, and I found that it's in all the good books. You can go in the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Torah, everywhere you go. William James, great psychologist from Harvard around the turn of the century, he said, believe in your belief will create the fact. So I'm thinking belief, and there's always... And I was sitting with my mentor, Val Vanderwall, one day in a restaurant, and we weren't talking about belief. He just happened to say something, and my mind just took off. He said, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about that situation changes. Now, you see, I began to reevaluate who I was, and my belief about who I am changes. And as it changed, my results changed. Now, we have two forms of belief. We have conscious beliefs and we have subconscious beliefs. There's a beautiful word dealing with beliefs called praxis, P-R-A-X-I-S. It's an excellent word. Praxis is the integration of belief with behavior. You'll often hear people say, yeah, I believe that I can do a lot better than I'm doing, but they don't do it. Why? They believe it intellectually, but their paradigm doesn't believe it. They're saying, I believe I could multiply my income. But their paradigm is saying, you just never have enough money. So you see, we have beliefs on a conscious level. And they're beliefs we normally discuss in social situation, in conversation. But if you watch the person that's saying that they believe this, they believe that, watch their behavior and their results would indicate they've never heard of it. So I think we have to start to understand that we have beliefs on a conscious, on an educated level. And then we have beliefs on another level, on a level where our performance and our behavior is being controlled, on a level where the health of our body is being controlled. Because it's not our conscious thought that controls our health. It's the unconscious concepts, the ones that are planted deep in our psyche. Like rheumatism is not a normal state for the joints of a body to be in. It's bad thoughts that are fixed in there. And if we get into the concept of forgiveness, but see, most people that hate and hold resentments, they don't even want to talk about it. Why? Well, we don't talk about those things. Why? Well, we're taught that as little kids. Well, we should start to talk. We should start to understand it. And we should start to release it. And we want to understand that forgive means to let go of. And let's get involved in this concept of praxis. And let's integrate some of those beliefs on a conscious level with our subconscious. And through repetition of repeating them and writing them and energizing them, emotionalizing them, we're going to find that pretty soon the new belief that we only have on a conscious level will start to take root. and the old one's going to die for a lack of nourishment. And what happens? The joints loosen up. The bank account grows. We have healthy relationships, healthy bank accounts, healthy body. Why? Because now we are, you could say, in integrity. You know, we've got the idea on a conscious, on a subconscious, and on a physical level. You know, we're in tune. We're in harmony. We're congruent. Most people are not congruent. The beliefs they have that they talk about, they don't have on a subconscious level. So what they should do is observe their behavior and the results, and that'll tell them what they believe there. And it'll also tell them what they have to change. The mind is perfect. There's only brain damage. There's back to your electrical system again. But we've got enough healthy cells in our brain that we can educate those cells to do what the damaged cells can no longer do. That's exactly what happens when a person has a stroke. When a person has a stroke, there's a stoppage of blood going to the brain. And the brain, being the greediest part of the body when it comes to blood, those cells die very quickly. And so they lose the use of their hand. Why? The electrical system will not send a message to the hand to lift your hand. It won't do it. But if you take the hand and you move the hand, and you bend the fingers, and you keep moving the hand and bend the fingers, the body will send a message to healthy cells, and pretty soon those healthy cells will then move the hand. We rewire the body. When we help a person get rid of an allergy, what we're really doing is showing them how to rewire their brain. And that's really what they're doing. They're rewiring their brain. A person that has hay fever, they've got an idea in their brain. Whenever pollen strikes their sensory factor, it sends a message to the cells in the brain. They increase in amplitude of vibration, and pretty soon their congestive system's all screwed up. They've got to rewire their brain. They've got to build an idea in their brain that their congestive system is healthy and perfect, and nothing disturbs it because it is in perfect harmony with God's laws. And keep writing it and keep emotionalizing that, and pretty soon they will have no problem with the pollen. They won't have hay fever, because they've rewired their brain. Now, I've seen this happen with time and time again. People that have eczema or something like that, it's the brain, it's the electrical system that's screwed up. So what they have to do is rewire the brain. And when they do that, then the body automatically changes, because the body's an instrument of the mind, and the brain is an instrument of the mind. So the mind is movement, and body's the manifestation of the movement. But in working with children, I've had phenomenal success with them, and there's a great secret to working with children. Forget their children. Forget their children. The only thing that a child is lacking that you might have is experience and a vocabulary. So you do what John Kennedy did when he was president. He said he wrote his speeches for 10-year-olds to understand. He was an effective communicator. Well, we want to communicate so a 10-year-old could understand them. I am very effective in my seminars, and I think I know why, because I communicate on a very elementary level. That's how I learned it. If I hadn't learned it, I wouldn't have got it, because I was a very elementary guy. I only went to high school for 2 months. I had a very limited vocabulary. I never read anything. So, I mean, I really had to be, educated, but educated in the true sense of the word. It comes from the Latin educo, meaning to educe or develop or to draw from within. So I get these ideas across to the kids. I forget that the kids are kids. I just think of them as myself. I was working with a group of kids one time. There was about a dozen of them on 1-hour conference calls. And they were 12, 14, 15 years old. And I come on the call one day, and I just worked with them 1 hour a week for 12 weeks. I come on one week, and they were on before I got on. I heard one of them mention an old guy. And I said, now, wait a minute, be careful. I'm on the phone. And Heather, a little girl from New York, she laughed. She said, you're not an old guy, Bob. You're a young guy. You're just locked up in an old guy's body. and that was how they saw me, because that's how I saw me. So you see, we see the world as we see ourselves. So if we want to communicate to kids, forget that they're kids. Use words that you know they're going to understand, and they'll get it a lot faster than adults, because this is something you really want to burn into your mind. Kids are making up their mind. We've got to change ours. It's a lot easier to make up your mind than it is to change it. Now, Glenn Doman is a phenomenal. He's been working. He was a physiotherapist. He's an old guy. God, he got to be in his 90s now. He was a physiotherapist that was befriended by a neurosurgeon, Vincent Fay, who was one of the first people to operate on a live brain. It's only been recent that we've operated on live brains. Up till then, we were operating on brains out of cadavers. Well, Vincent Fay and Glenn Doman became friends. And so he let him come in and watch him when he was operating on the brain. And he became very fascinated with it. Well, he became aware that's the only problem we have is a brain problem. It's the electrical problem. And there was a young boy, Brandon, this is how I first came in contact with him, in England, who was born, he was considered a vegetable. And his mother took him to all the doctors in the UK. They said, plant him on the side of a hill, there's nothing there. She didn't believe that. She believed there was something there, so she kept searching, and she ended up at Glenn Doman's place. I think it's the Institute for the Development of Human Potential. This is over near Philadelphia. Big staff, he's been at it for 50 years. And he said, no, there's something there. The first goal is to get him to crawl. So she had to take him home, hold the body up, move the body. It was a form of patterning. And you move the leg, move the arms, and hold the body up. And you had to do this all his waking hours. It became an exhaustive ordeal. So it turned into a community project. Well, by the time Brandon was 8, he was above average intelligence in school and could run a mile in 14 minutes. Now, I have been reading about this in the Toronto paper. And I was talking about it, I just couldn't stop talking about it. But at the same time it was in the Toronto paper, there was a police officer in a suburb of Toronto that was helping his father-in-law fix the roof on his barn. He fell off the roof and landed on his head, and he was rendered like a vegetable. Great big cop. Well, another woman had read about Brandon and heard about this police officer, so she went to his family and asked if she could work with him. I guess they said, okay. It turned into a society. She got all kinds of people on shift work. They go in and work with this cop. Day in, day out, all his waking hours for months. I was doing a seminar for Royal Dalton in Canada. There was 100 people in the seminar. And I was talking about this. And you could just feel like an electric shock running through the room because there was 2 people in the room that worked with this police officer. They belonged to this particular group. And the police officer was just about ready to go back to work. Now, what were they doing? They were rewiring the brain. The electrical system is the only problem we've got. And the only cause of it is ignorance. That is the only problem in the world. When you eliminate ignorance, you eliminate the ignorance with knowledge. The only way to get to knowledge is to study. And there's many forms of study. Study will give you understanding. And without understanding, you haven't got anything. That's why Solomon said, in all you're getting, get understanding. So we want to understand. We can communicate very effectively to children. We can change any situation. All things are possible. And the electrical system in the body is the only problem that we've got. If we'd learn to work with it, everything will fly. You'll have more energy. You'll be more vibrant. You will attract everything into your life that you want to attract because you're going to be in the vibration that you have to be in. The body is a molecular structure. Even when you move out of the body doesn't stop vibrating. It still vibrates. And if it didn't, how would it ever change to dust? Go pick up the remains, look at it through a microscope, and you'll see it moving right in front of you. We literally live in a notion of motion. The law of vibration decrees, everything moves, nothing rests. We got to understand this. And as we do, we start moving ahead. So if you're listening to this and somebody criticizes it, look at them and smile and say, I can understand why you're saying that. You understand, they don't understand. And then just keep on going. Or just say, that's interesting. Don't get caught up in their negative conversation, though. People can be thinking great thoughts about money. Like, I was talking to a few thousand people on the side of a mountain here in Denver, and or in Aspen. And all those people would be thinking great thoughts about money, but there's a lot of them that were broke. A lot of them had to borrow money to get there. A lot of them aren't quite sure how they're going to pay their car payment when they get back. So on a subconscious level, they don't have great thoughts about money. So you have to understand that it's not the thought on a conscious level that's going to change your life. It's a thought that's on a deep subconscious level. And you've got to take and internalize that. You've got to add energy to it. That's emotion. You emotionalize it. But you've got to understand that the paradigm is nothing but a collection of thoughts that are in our subconscious mind. And the paradigm is passed down from generation to generation. Many of your beliefs go back hundreds of years. Like, we'll look at a person, we'll say they're black and they're white. Do you know there's no such thing as a black person? I've never seen one anyway, and I've never seen a white person. If you saw a white person, you'd probably run. Why do we say they're black and they're white? Because you're programmed to see that. You don't even see with your eyes. You see with cells of recognition in your brain. So, you know, there's so much to get into about this, and we've got to realize that our belief system is being expressed in our behavior, and ultimately it's being expressed in our results. So take a look at your results, and they tell you the truth about your life. And you've got to be big enough and mature enough to face it. And if you're not, you're sunk. Then you're a victim, and victims lose. You cannot be a victim. You've got to take responsibility for where you are and who you are. See, responsibility is really the key to freedom. And when I took responsibility for being unhappy, sick, and broke, then and only then could I change it. Because if I thought I was the victim of circumstances or conditions or somebody else, I was lost. There's no such thing as luck, chance, all that's a bunch of jazz. Voltaire said we invented these words to express known effects of unknown causes. When you take a look at your results, and I don't care in what part of your life, understand they're an expression of your subconscious belief. You probably never originated it. You inherited it. You've got to question it. You should question some of your deepest convictions, because most of them won't hold air when you really get into checking them. And they've been passed along from generation to generation. Well, you see, when we talk about things being inherited, they are. It's genetic conditioning. It's passed down from generation to generation to generation and comes through the last person to touch us, which would probably be our parents or guardian. But then we're environmentally conditioned, because now we're getting it not just through the genes, but through the atmosphere. You know, and whatever thoughts are going on in that, all you have to do is go into a welfare area. Almost all welfare recipients are third, fourth, fifth generation welfare recipients. Go into prison. The recidivism rate runs 85 to 90%. People go to prison, they usually live there for the rest of their life. They're on the street for a few months and back in again. 85 to 90 people that walk out, they go back. Why? Because they're programmed to do that. And that's the way they live. So this genetic conditioning is very strong. Now, the guilt, yeah, we don't want to take responsibility. Hell, I don't want to take responsibility for this mess that's my life. But that's the only way out. There isn't any other way. Now, you might be responsible, when I'm looking at my parents or my ancestors, they might have been responsible for making me who I am. But I'm responsible for changing it. And I've got to understand they did the best they knew. They didn't know any better. They give me the best they had. They didn't sit down and say, let's really mess this kid's head up. You know, they loved me. So we don't even let them make decisions for themselves because we love them. We don't want them to hurt themselves. So now you find an adult that can't make a decision. And that's almost all adults. And you'll find them running around saying, what do you think I should do? You know what they're looking for? Approval. They already know what they should do. When people come to me in a seminar and I can see it coming, I can sense it. I know what they're going to do. They're going to ask me, you know, what I think they should do about a touchy situation. I listen to them and then I look at them and I say, you already know what you should do. And I walk away from them. And they do. You see, if we can grasp the idea that someone else may be responsible for making us who we are through genetic and environmental conditioning, and that's probably the way it is, and that's fine, but we are responsible for changing it. And if we quit looking at our results as negative, like the universe operates by law. One of the laws is polarity. Polarity decrees everything has an opposite. There'd be no inside of this room if there wasn't an outside. You couldn't have a hot without a down or a hot without a cold. So every situation is both negative and positive. And Ray got me to look at this. Unhappy, sick, and broke. He says, that's not bad. It's not good. He says, I could show you people that are getting much worse results than you. Well, I said, you know that most of the population of the world are living on about $50 a year. Look at you. You're filthy rich. You live like Solomon in all his splendor and glory by comparison. So you see, it's how you invoke this law of relativity then. So don't look at your results as good or bad. Just say everything is. Like this room's neither big nor small. It just is. Now, until I relate it to a bedroom or a bathroom or something, then it just is. So he says, look at your results. It just is. Now, is it what you want? I said, no. Then he said, change it. Don't feel bad about it. Just say, I don't want it anymore. I think I want to be happy. I want to be healthy. I want to be wealthy. Then he said, study people who are happy, healthy, and wealthy. Now he said, some of them even know how to help you get there. Some of them don't. Most people that are happy, healthy, and wealthy, they're just programmed the right way, and they don't even understand what's going on. You don't have to have understanding to win. You have to have understanding to enjoy winning. I think the human potential movement it's exploding. The change I've seen, you see, now I've been in the business for quite a while, and the changes that I've seen over the past 25 or 30 years are if anybody had predicted it back when I got into this business, I would have thought they were kidding. For me to walk into a company and talk about spirit, they'd say, "Get out of here." Now they're calling me. From all over the world they're calling. Come and help us. The awareness is phenomenal. See, I think there's a spiritual transition taking place in the world. People are starting to understand spirit. People are starting to understand energy. People are starting to understand themselves as an energy field and the fact that they can work with it to get the results they want. There are critics, and there's quite a few, but they're changing very fast. It's no accident that there's a few thousand people sitting on the side of that mountain over there in Aspen, all eager to get more of this information, and that they've come from all over the world. That's not an accident. We set up a website, giftsforyourmind.com. And I put stuff up there, let people get it for nothing. They just go there and download it. Like if they go to my website, they can download my book, Born Rich, for nothing. I figure, giver's gain. If you put enough out, it's going to come back. And the other one, there's one on purpose, vision, and goals. It's an article I wrote in an MP3 and different things like that. And they can download this stuff. And it's like I'm out sowing seeds everywhere. But I'm seeing things change so dramatically. So when you say over the next 50 years, I don't think my imagination could handle that. When I looked at The Secret for the first time, I knew that thing was going to fly. But if somebody had said that where it's going to go, I would have never guessed it. Not in a million years. And I know if you talk to Rhonda Byrne, she wouldn't have either. She was just so locked into doing good. That's what she was locked into, helping millions. And she's helping billions. I mean, God only knows where it goes. I've been asked, is it possible to be involved in repetition without changing the energy inside? No. Now, if there's just a little repetition, there'll be temporary changes, but you'll go right back to where you were. Because what you've got a power force in your electrical system that's controlling the vibration of your body, particular parts of your body. If you plant something and start to get emotionally involved with an idea that's essentially the opposite of that, you may see temporary change, but unless you keep doing it, it won't last. It'll go back to where it was. It's like a spring that you're holding. So the repetition, it has to be a lot of repetition. And you see, that defies logic. A person say, why are you reading the book again? You've already read it. I've got a great visual I could give you where it's a PowerPoint. I'll dig it out and give it to you, and you would absolutely love it, because it's about the white line represents the sound of a CD playing. Okay, the red line, which runs right inside the white line, represents you listening to the CD playing. So the red line's coming along, and the white line's still going, like CD's still playing, and an idea hits, whoop, you flip up here onto another frequency, onto a thought frequency. So you're up there and you're thinking. Meanwhile, the CD's still playing, but you're not listening to it. And you go along, then you come back down, you start to listen. You go on, another idea hits where you go up on the thought frequency. So, I mean, you could listen to the same CD virtually for a year and never get all the ideas on it. And then you've got to get that one idea, the first one you listen to, you've got to get that over and over and over and over again to get it to fix in your mind. When it's fixed, then it starts to take root and then it starts to work. Well, that's what I did. I did that. I kept listening to the same record for a couple of years, driving around playing it and reading the same book. I didn't read anything else, just the same book. My income, I couldn't believe it. It took me 9 years to figure out what I had done. It was the repetition. Nature abhors a vacuum. It just abhors a vacuum. You can't put something where that chair is until you move the chair. Well, you've got to remove the idea from the mind before you can put something in its place. That's why forgiveness is such a phenomenal idea. Forgive means let go of completely. Abandon. Forgiveness is one of the greatest concepts a person can use for their own health and well-being. See, if you do something to me I got to forgive you right away. Not for your benefit, for my benefit. I'm not going to help you by forgiving you. I'm only going to help me. Now, what is the alternative? Then I'm going to hate you. I'm going to resent you. Well, what's that going to do? It's going to start drying up all the joints in my body. Resentment and hate, it dries up the joints. That's where arthritis and rheumatism come from. If a person would get involved in a healing concept and release all the bad feelings they have about other people, they'd find that the joints in their body start to get lubricated. The pain would leave. Cancer patients, I'm firmly convinced that it's suppression. Cancer patients are the best patients. They never complain. Treat them bad, they will take it. Heart patients, woo, they're blown up all the time. When a person watches a film such as this, or The Secret, or anything like this, or reads a good book, and they're truly inspired, and you see, when a person is truly inspired, they want to share it, because you don't really enjoy something until you share it. And so they go and share it with someone that really doesn't understand, and the person will laugh, and then they'll ask you a question that you're not prepared to answer because you don't know enough about it, and then they laugh at you. The most natural thing would be to shy away and drop it. What we should do is ask them what they know about the subject. Why are you criticizing this? Why are you rejecting this? Do you really understand it? Have you ever really studied it? See, I have traveled all over the world, and I've never seen a statue built to a critic, not even one. So critics go where critics probably should go. They just drift off into space somewhere by themselves. But you see, all the wise people that have ever lived have all said the same thing. And so it's like Earl Nightingale used to say, he was such a marvelous mentor. He said, if there's a large group of people going that way, and there's only one or two going that way, and you're going to follow other people, follow the one or two. Because the masses historically have always been wrong. 1% of our population earns 96% of all the money that's being earned. And money's a good yardstick for awareness. I'm not saying that money's going to replace a lot of things. It won't. But nothing will replace it. And why are there so few people that understand how to earn money? You'll find people that are absolutely brilliant and they're broke. And they're also sick. And you're going to find others who are functionally illiterate. And they're living in very healthy bodies and earning millions. How does this happen? They're a little different. They walk to the beat of a different drummer, like Napoleon's little drummer boy. He said, I've never learned to beat the retreat, and I don't intend to learn. We want to keep moving in the right direction. We've got to learn from other people. And we've got to learn from the right ones. Let's go to the ones who is demonstrated by results. They know what they're talking about. Some pretty good advice we got one time. By their fruits, you'll know them. I buy into that. A person's results will tell you their level of understanding. I don't want to go to a sick doctor to try and find out how to get healthy. I don't want to go to a broke banker to find out what to do with money. I don't want to go to someone that's alone and lonely to build relationships. But people in general do that. You know why? Because they don't think. Earl Nightingale said if most people said what they were thinking, they would be speechless. And I'm inclined to agree with him. A great educator from Kentucky, Dr. Kenneth McFarland, he said that 2% of the people think, 3% think they think, and 95% would actually rather die than think. Now, do you know, when we hear this, we snicker because it's kind of cute. It's got a comical twist to it, but it's true. What we should do is listen to what most people are saying. It's obvious they're not thinking, or they'd never say what they're saying. Stand back and observe what people are doing. It's fairly obvious they're not thinking, or they'd never do what they're doing. Thinking is the highest function of which we're capable. And I want to encourage everyone who's watching this to watch it a number of times. Don't watch it once. Watch it a number of times. You see, when I hit you with an idea, you're going to take a thought trip. And you're going to miss all kinds of ideas. Do you know that you could watch this 100 times and not entertain every idea on it? Repetition is the first law of learning for good reason.